Hey, Catherine, it's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Catherine, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Catherine, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest it in yourself. And oftentimes, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, Catherine, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Catherine, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Catherine, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, hmm, a lot's changed about the mango tree. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. It was such a lovely experience that day. I was so excited. Here's my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Catherine that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And you see, while I was going through your bio, the stuff that I was reading about you, they're amazing. Your insights, your philosophies, how you're offering your solution, the impact your work is having, these stuffs are beautiful. And just before I sent you the request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Catherine is doing, not only me now, but even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Catherine. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you for the invitation and your beautiful story about the mangoes, which is really very profound.
Thank you so very much. So let's get started. You see, Catherine, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for two reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Catherine, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason I'm excited to have the amazing Catherine on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Catherine, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Catherine got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Catherine, over to you.
Right. Thank you so much. So I'm not really sure how far back to go in my journey. So I guess what occurs to me now is that right now I'm calling you. We're connecting. I'm actually in Santa Fe, New Mexico at the moment. I was emceeing an event yesterday in Albuquerque for a journey within with Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, who has a extraordinary breathing meditation, which I'm a teacher of. Getting to the point where I was able to be on that stage takes me back a long time. I spent 35 years in Hong Kong. So I was in the Far East for most of my life, actually, more than half of my life. My children were born and raised in Hong Kong. And I became really interested in the Far East and studied Chinese when I was in university and then lived there and then spent many decades as a commodities trader. And when I started having my kids, I became extremely interested in how I communicated and resolved conflicts and cultivated a family environment that would feel true to who I was and would be the most nurturing for my kids to grow up in. And that's when I really began exploring about 30 years ago what was the best way to develop healthy connections within the family and to create a context and an environment that would bring kids up where they felt they could tell you the truth, where they felt that they could be really transparent, and how hard that is. That it really is difficult to create that environment because there's so many protective factors that all of us grow up intrinsically within us. Developing that system myself became sort of the focus of my life's work. And so since about 2008, when I wrote the guidance approach to parenting with a couple of colleagues, over the course of a year, we really culled what was, I guess, the work of many, many giants in the field of communication, problem solving, conflict resolution. And I studied with a number of those people and brought the work into now this approach, which is standing on the shoulders of many giants in the field of communication and conflict resolution to bring about families and beyond that, leadership styles that can be applied in corporations, in communities, in institutions, where everybody feels seen, heard, and understood from their perspective, where everyone feels like they have a voice and that they have a seat at the table, that collaborative problem-solving models honor that everybody's perspective is important, not just the person who's sitting with the most power, but that power sharing and collaboration will actually bring about the lasting changes and the easiest to implement solutions in any situation. So that's kind of the broad base understanding of the work that I'm interested in.
Amazing. Thank you for all that you're doing for families and folks in leadership. It's amazing. I love it. So I'm going to pick the first question from here. What are emotional triggers in parenting and leadership?
Yeah, so we don't really know what our triggers are until we're triggered.
That's
But
so true.
once we're triggered, we usually know we're triggered. And the telltale signs, I guess, of being overwhelmed is that we are emotionally out of control. We aren't experiencing emotions; we become our emotions, and we can at that stage become manipulative and abusive and holier than thou. And I think at that point we usually are calling everybody we know to justify why we're right and the other person is wrong. And if we find ourselves doing that, it's a good moment for us to pause and think, wow, I wonder if this is about me and less about the catalyst. But until we take that pause, we're pretty convinced it's all about the other guy. And we're trying to make them wrong. And we're trying to, assert in a very aggressive way how we are actually the one who's been wronged. So it's a great thing when we begin to understand that moment when the other has activated something within us and put us in touch with something internal that was there, that pre-existed the catalyst. And that experience that we're having is actually older than this moment in time. And that this moment is simply dredging up something that was already inside. with that mind and with that context, it's easier for us to be able to go, wow, what is this something inside of me that's obviously really, it's like an open wound. It's like somebody just poured salt, and a little bit of lime on a sore, and it really, really hurt. So there's something very painful there. And when those pains get triggered by an word, an event, a something outside of us, to have the mindset that that thing outside of me was actually neutral and that the pain is within, so that I can begin to focus on that journey inside rather than what I need to do to the person outside of me for having made me get in touch with that part of myself. That's a completely different approach. It's a really healthy approach to be able to then just be with that inner world of ours where there's something that does need healing and light and attention and compassion and empathy from within.
Profound. I got that. And with that mindset, we tend to respond and not react. I got that.
Hmm.
I got that.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
let us talk about burnout. All right. So, what are the early signs of burnout?
Hmm. I think the early signs of burnout are lack of enthusiasm, having lost our enjoyment in the world that we're in the middle of, whatever that world may be. So if it's a job or profession or even family, when we begin to have something other than enthusiasm, I would say it's time for self-care. Yeah, it's time for self-care. It's that put the oxygen mask on yourself and begin to realize maybe I'm not taking care of me. Maybe I need to spend a little bit more time curious about what nurturing I can do from my own inner world so that I can be present in this other outer world.
I got that. I got that. Okay, so let's get personal a bit. How does your childhood shape your leadership style?
Well, it's definitely the foundation of all my work is that I think I talk about in my courses, and if people were to look at my TED Talks, they could learn a lot about me. I have 3 TED Talks. That where I experienced a really loving childhood. It was also from parents that I would say were unconsciously unskilled. They didn't even know that they lacked skills. They were just unaware of the fact that while there was plenty of love and there was definitely an experience of feeling loved, there was only later in reflection and looking back the experience of kind of being like, that was not very enlightened. That was not a really conscious communication approach. My mom was from the deep South in the United States, from Louisiana, and for this audience, I'm not really sure if they'll have a feel for what that means, but it's a real emphasis on what will the neighbors think. It's a lot about how you look as opposed to how you are. It's more concerned with just creating the impression that everything is wonderful as opposed to being concerned with if everything really is okay. It's an external locus of causality rather than an internal locus of causality. And I, of course, didn't know any of that as a kid growing up. But as I experienced what we would probably just call through my own parenting and my own journey of becoming the mom, becoming the parent, and recognizing through the innocence of my children's eyes that they're just little people who don't know and developmentally are really needing to be in touch with their own inner world rather than just being told what to do. So getting to a place of being able to foster development and growth and have an external safe, psychologically safe environment for kids to explore their inner worlds, I realized that my own context was that it was more important to know what other people were feeling. It was more important to understand the outer people in my life and be concerned with their well-being than it was to be in touch with my own inner sense of things. So the conscious parenting revolution was born out of an unconscious parenting experience as the child and wanting to bring about the foundation for helping others to know how to do that for their families if they didn't experience it themselves.
Wow, amazing. And that's one of the traits of a true leader, always wanting to help others. That's beautiful. I love that. So we have two more to go, okay? So let's talk about your quiz, all right? So what makes your quiz different from typical parenting assessment?
So I have a quiz actually that's launching right now, and that quiz really helps people get in touch with their archetype. So what they're drawn to, are they the protector? Are they the one who's just juggling? Are they really led by people have a blind side, if you will? Something that, we call it the dark side of the light chaser. If you've ever heard that expression, I'm sure we are drawn to the light, and that is very powerful and positive. And we integrate the dark or the side of us that we can't see, right? So different teachers talk about this in different ways. So the subconscious, or the part of us that's unconscious, the thing that's hidden from us, it's oftentimes leading and driving our behavior without us consciously knowing or understanding what this something in us is doing or why it's doing that. So integrating that into our light mind, into the part of us that actually has some choice, is really important. And the more that we integrate the dark side, the more that we integrate what's not obvious, the blind side, the more powerful we are in our ability to get the outcomes that we want, not just for ourselves, but for the people that we feel responsible for. And so this is a quiz that helps us uncover that.
Awesome. That sounds like a powerful quiz and very effective one. I got that. So for someone who has taken the quiz now, what is the first step what is the first step they should take?
I think that for people who take the quiz, what helps them is to go and join the community at the Conscious Parenting Revolution. And when you join the community, you can have access to lots and lots of free information and support, as well as others that are in the same situation you're in. I always find that when you feel like you're not alone, it's sort of like, oh, thank goodness, I'm not doing this all by
I
myself.
tell you.
The power of community is just the ability to feel like there's somebody else out there who can relate to what I'm going through. And just having that shared sense of community can really bring about a lot of help and support.
That's so true. Well, I've got to say thank you for all of the beautiful things that you're doing, Catherine. I tell you, it's amazing. So one more, then we call it a day. So what is one quick shift that builds more connection and less conflict?
Um, when we begin to see the surface behaviors, the things that drive us crazy, whether it's things that drive us crazy in our partners, in our bosses, in our subordinates, in our children, even strangers, when we see those behaviors that we want to label bad or mean or wrong, anything that we want to judge, even positive judgments, but in particular, I think it's the negative ones. Because when we judge something negatively, we then use our own judgment of it as the justification for our response. And so if we see those behaviors as the manifestation of an unmet need, as a surface behavior that, while may be socially unacceptable and cause ripples in other people's lives, and those behaviors are not pleasant to be around. If we see them through the context of a symptom rather than the problem, of course, they're a problem. We want them to disappear. Of course, they're not something pleasant. We want them to shift. But if we see them first as a symptom, what can arise within us rather than the judgment is compassion and empathy. What can arise within us is the opportunity for potentially moving closer rather than further away. So people who are drowning don't do it politely. And if we can look at all of those behaviors as drowning behaviors, then we may potentially have a response within us that would lead us toward throwing a lifeline rather than stepping away.
That's so true. And that was well explained. I got that. I'll take that as a final thought. So for folks who would like to reach out to you, Catherine, or start to make a use of your quiz or your services, how can that be possible?
Go to consciousparentingrevolution.com. And when you get to the Conscious Parenting Revolution, you'll be able to access the quiz and other resources. And you can find on the website access to the TED Talks and all kinds of other things that may support you in your living.
Awesome. I love that. So that's going to be the end of the show, Catherine. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this beautiful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.